Season 2, Episode 5, Ronny Lily.
Welcome to Starting Now, a Barry podcast, presented by Cinemasins.
Hello, everybody. This is Starting Now, the Barry podcast. This is Chris Atkinson, joined by Barrett Scher.
Hey!
And by Mike Hester.
Hey, everybody.
Yes.
Yeah, bringing that energy.
Yeah.
Ronny Lily, in the short history of this series, is the highest rated episode of television in its in the entire catalog. It is also one of the highest rated episodes of television I've seen on anything on the IMDb. 9.8. Now,
Whoa!
3,000 votes, so it's not like a ton of people, but I imagine more and more people who watch this, they're going to feel the same way.
Mm-hmm.
Ronny Lily is an episode that really obviously it has very deep connection to the rest of the series, but it stands alone. It's like a very short film.
Yeah.
And so if you remember in the last episode, Detective Loach catches Barry, and he admits everything, and on tape that he killed Detective Moss and everything, and Loach uses that to say, "Hey, kill this guy Ronny Proxon. He's been banging my wife."
Yeah.
And so that's who we start on in this episode. Ronny Proxon coming home. He's got the beers. He's got the weed in his little secret little container on the mantle.
Goes right for it, too, man. As soon as he walks in, he's got the...
He looks like he is about to just enter, like he doesn't have anything to deal with for a really long time. I'm just going to drink some beer, smoke some weed. Who knows what,
Stare at the wall, probably.
Yeah, stare at the wall. This guy who plays Ronny Proxon, Daniel Bernhardt, it has been in a bunch of like kickboxer movies.
Yeah.
Like the sequels to Kickboxer. Like he was in those.
Yep.
Kickboxer 2, 3, 4.
Yeah, he's legit. Like he's a legitimate
you can
martial
tell.
artist.
You can tell.
Oh yeah. They don't, when it gets into the action of this episode, they don't cut during his kicking and all that. They don't make him look a badass. He is a badass.
And he's huge.
Yeah, he is a huge dude.
Because Bill Hader, as they say in a later episode, is like 6'6" or something like that. And this guy legitimately like towers over him, like both with bulk and with height. Like he's just enormous.
Yeah.
But he's also dressed in like sweatpants and fucking like pajamas and stuff like that.
So yeah, you see him he's about to just chill out and everything. And then he notices there's some sort of sound that happens. His back is turned to the camera, and he turns around and Barry is like, "Hey, look, I was sent here to kill you by Detective Loach," and he's like, "You are Ronny Proxon, right?"
It's should be embarrassing.
Yeah, and he goes, uh-huh.
Yeah.
He goes, and you hear, this is all, it's all on Ronny Proxon the whole time.
He's off camera the whole time at the beginning, right?
Yeah, Bill Hader, who is actually directing this episode, he's like, "Oh, well, good. Oh man, that would have been really weird."
Yeah.
Goes through this whole spiel like, I'm coming here to kill you. Detective Loach sent me to kill you. You're dating his ex-wife, right? And he's like, very, very non-verbal person.
Yeah, he's got like one line, Chicago, basically in this entire thing.
Yeah. And Barry, who has maintained his starting now promise throughout this entire thing, has come up with a whole other scenario while Fuches is waiting in a van to have Ronny drive to Chicago and meet up with relatives and just stay out there for a year, and so that he doesn't have to kill him.
He's going to send him money too, right?
Yeah, he's going to send him money. He's like, the guy out there, he's waiting for me. He thinks I'm killing you, but I'm not. I'm calling an audible, and so. I could keep on talking, but what do you guys want to get into right now?
I wonder, there's a couple of things to this. So I wonder when he made that decision, because the last time that we see Barry is the what moment, where Loach approaches him. He says what? We don't see him agree to it or whatever. We don't see Fuches' involvement at all because he's out in the hall. Matter of fact, I don't know why he sent him out to the hall if he's going to be involved in this. And like, what is the plan with this? Like, I guess Fuches is saying, well, we're going to take care of this and then we're going to go back to business as usual, right? Because we're done with the Chechens. We're done with this. All is right with the world.
He doesn't know they're done with the Chechens, right? He just wants to be done with the cops. He wants to be involved with the Chechens, or at least Fuchs does.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, the new Chechens. But they're not in. He's not in any debt to the Chechens anymore that Fuchs knows about, because he finds out in this episode that Barry's been training.
Yeah, he's been training them. Yeah, he finds out a little bit later on. But Fuchs would love to be involved with the Chechens in the good way.
Yeah.
But Barry he is wanting, as well as Barry, to get out of this police thing. He can get out of the police investigation.
So Barry just develops this plan, basically. Like, I guess certainly between that what moment and now, I'm just wondering at what point.
Fuchs actually has no idea what's next after this.
No.
He doesn't know until way later that any of this other information that comes up.
This isn't exactly a great plan. I guess he goes away and
it's
then
like he's making it up as it goes along.
He's just kind of making this up. He's not a master planner. That really is more a Fuchs area, when you think about it. So, so he just kind of goes in there and tries to wing it with this Taekwondo master.
Yeah.
Well, and we don't know he's a Taekwondo master until he tells him, hey, I'm going to drive you to Chicago. And for a bit there, he goes he goes along with it. Ronny Proxon goes along with it. They walk into this room full of trophies. Like, it is wall-to-wall trophies and everything. He's like, oh, wow. Like, and you see Ronny at the closet, and Barry's like, wow, like, whose trophies are these? And he just kind of lifts his hand.
And good for you.
And then he's like, oh, wow, man. And Barry really thinks he's gotten it this easy.
He does. He's so conversational with him. And it's hilarious because, as soon as he gets Ronny to kind of like gather his stuff and everything, he's like, you go to the bathroom to get your stuff and all that. He's making small talk with him. He's like, it's a long drive and everything. Sometimes I do Google Maps and Waze, have a little contest between the two of them. He's hilarious. And the first part of this, the whole episode is shot brilliantly.
Yeah.
But the first part of this, first of all, it's silent. There's no fanfare for the Barry credit. And it's completely silent as it's a tracking shot as he walks in.
I love that.
And the camera, at some point after they follow him getting ready, turns static. Just looking straight on into the bedroom, and it's not a one shot, but it feels like a one shot. It's gorgeous.
Right after he says that Google Maps Waze thing, that's when he gets kicked.
And
then it's on, and we as viewers don't know how good Barry is yet, like as a fighter.
Yeah,
we know he's a good killer, like shoots people.
We saw him in season 1 kill that guy, Paco, with his bare hand. So that's the one thing. And that was, as bad as he was to sneaky up on him, he didn't really have any trouble taking him down and killing him. So he has something.
Well, he's not good there either.
Not really.
Like, even that is a huge mess when he's doing it. And we don't, and Paco is not a fighter either.
No.
So we don't really know how he is, especially against somebody with all this sort of decoration that we've seen. And there's even the part where he turns around and goes, "Oh, medals too."
That kick is brutal, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, and it comes out. I legitimately jumped because he's making the small talk and then thunk, and he's down. Well, it's not even a battle at that point. Like, he falls through the closet door.
Yeah,
he's fucked up.
There are 2 or 3 moments where Ronny could have kicked him and didn't.
Yeah,
and you're like, okay, well, maybe this really is going down like we think it is, and then that Google Maps Waze thing happens, and then boom, he gets kicked, and then we have a real rough and tumble fight going through this whole thing, and all Barry has to do is get one good shot in onto his throat, and then suddenly things have turned. And we're also looking at a guy who may have been a champion Taekwondo guy and is definitely still a badass, but he's also much older now, and he's been smoking weed. He's probably a little out of shape, because if this is, you get the sense that this fight happened 5 years earlier, Barry would have been done.
Yep.
And so like, because the playing field is a little bit leveled, Barry does get that one shot in, and the guy can't breathe. His windpipe is broken, and you can hear it. You can hear him wheezing and everything.
I wonder some things about Ronnie. Right before that happens, he starts calling somebody.
He calls 911.
He calls 911? Is that what he does? Okay.
He dials 3 numbers, and I don't know what he says later on that he called the cops. Barry says that Ronnie had called the cops later on in the episode. They don't show up, obviously, while he's still at the house.
Yeah.
But yeah, he does dial 911, and he lifts up the phone, and that's when Barry tackles him.
And he's about to say, he's like, hey, whatever. He's barely gets anything out before Barry tackles him again.
I almost wonder if maybe Barry is playing possum a little bit right there. He definitely got kicked, and he went through like that door. I was wondering if he had maybe taken an extra second to collect himself and think, goodness, what am I going to do next?
I don't know, man. I think he's knocked the fuck out.
He may have lost consciousness for a second. I don't know.
One thing we've I know that people have seen the episode probably if they're listening to this podcast, but Barry has got this complete ski mask on with like sunglasses.
That's crazy looking.
Like it's not
crazy.
It's not enough to have the ski mask on.
Yeah.
He's got these fucking goggles.
Yeah, he's. I mean, and I sit there. I ran through this episode a couple of times before this podcast, and I sit there and wonder what Ronnie is thinking during this entire time. This guy is like, I mean, he's smoking weed.
Yeah.
And like Barry comes in with this crazy story. And like he's got this orange ski mask and goggles on, and he's just sitting and he's just like shooting the shit and all that. Like, what is Ronnie thinking? He must wonder if this is even real, you know?
Probably, but I was wondering, has he been in weird situations like this before? Like, I know he's smoking pot, and maybe that's part of the reason why he's a little calm. But he just started smoking. It's not like it's really had a huge chance to hit.
I think he's like a David Puddy character, like a super blank slate. Just like he's not the smartest dude in the world.
Maybe
he's
not.
He's
a blank slate. Yeah, definitely not. Especially after he got his windpipe and he's doing the nunchucks.
Such a great scene.
Well, that's another thing that happens with the action in this entire episode is stuff that starts off screen and then moves its way onto screen, and you see, and you're like, okay, this is a fight, and then you see Ronnie go somewhere and he's off screen, and then it's all of a sudden, and he's got 2 nunchucks
while he's doing,
And the best part of this is Barry knows that at any moment he won't be able to keep this up, so he sits down and he's like, Ronnie, man,
ready to talk again.
Your windpipe's busted, man.
Your windpipe's busted, man. We need to get you to hospital, man, or whatever. And then of course, Ronnie still has enough energy to go over and just whip him with that stuff.
Taking it.
Yeah.
Hey.
Before he finally does collapse on the floor, and Barry believes he's dead.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Oh, but it doesn't end there.
No, it does not.
No.
What a way to open an episode, by the way. But yeah, that's just the beginning.
After all, this episode is called Ronnie Lily.
Yeah.
So after he believes Ronnie is vanquished, he is ready to get out of there. He takes off his mask, and Lily, who is being taken home by some carpool, I guess, of some sort, from her own Taekwondo class, we're supposing.
Yep.
She's still in uniform. In her white uniform and everything, comes home and sees Barry with this blood goatee on his face, and the mask all the way up to his forehead and everything, the only thing that she does that feels human in the entire, is say daddy and run off to the other room. That's it. We don't see anything else after this. You will not predict anything that happens after this. Barry goes and says, little girl, he's like, I'm not going to hurt you. Take you to Chicago. And he goes in, he can't find her anywhere. And then he thinks, oh no, she went out the window that was that we see open early on in the episode when I guess that's how Barry got in. And he's like, oh shit. But then he hears this growling.
Yeah.
And he turns around and she's like in this weird stance, like crouch.
And like the kid from The Grudge or something.
Yeah. And she's like panting, like, and everything. And he's like, oh, yeah, I thought you were a dog. And she goes in for the attack. Just jumps at him. And like, it's this. It's funny. I watched the after thing on this, and they apparently during the first season, Bill Hader knows this couple who had this girl who's good at stunts, and they said if you ever need her for something, call us up. And it's this girl who's her name is Jessie Giacomazzi. I'm sure a lot of it is special effects because, I mean, some of the jumps are impossible. She's in midair for like a long time.
I put that out on Twitter saying, is this CGI or whatever? And the consensus seemed to be that it was a wire.
Yeah, it's like the wire foo stuff. That
yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely like something like that. And they do, and we'll get to the other scene later. There's an actual CGI thing that happens later. But a lot of this, these jumps and everything. But we're in this fantastical world at this point because this girl rates as, some sort of weird metahuman or...
Yeah, this is the first indication that we get in the entire series. Now, we've had dream sequences and stuff like that, but everything was grounded in reality. Mm-hmm. Sometimes like grim reality.
Yeah.
This one, as soon as she makes that jump, you're like, what?
Yeah.
And then as that fight progresses, you're like, whoa, what the fuck is going on? Because this is taking place in the real world. You can tell that this is going to be a completely different episode. And the first time I watched it, like my eyes were saucers. Like I couldn't understand what was going on, but it was so beautiful and so well done.
The first time we watched it, it was that Sunday night after the White Watchers episode.
Yeah.
So the White Walkers.
White Walkers. You can tell I'm not a game of
the White Watchers who are on a dietary program.
Yes, exactly. Oh man, you can tell I hadn't really watched much Game of Thrones until that, and I loved that episode of Game of Thrones, but it was intense. Mm-hmm. And after that, I'm thinking, okay, now I'm going to go watch this Barry episode. It's going to be more cerebral and not as intense. And then it was just more craziness and unbelievable. And I was at the end of it, I was just like, I can't breathe. I can't move.
This was a huge lead-in too for this series.
Got a lot more viewers. Than they've gotten on all the
I believe it
ones.
was 2.8 million, something like that. Watch this episode,
something like that. And the previous one had been. It's on Wikipedia, like 600,000, 800,000 or something. So it was a big jump for Barry.
So yeah, this is another one that goes through, and he's in another fight. Although this one's more of a defensive fight. Mm-hmm. She's trying to get out of there or whatever, and she's throwing beer bottles at him, and she's like using kitchen utensils and
with the cast iron. Yeah, it's like a Looney Tunes moment where like she gets him full in the jaw.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And she's jumping on the little the pan thing at the top. She throws
like a full can of tomatoes and hits him right in the head.
Yeah. she gets a knife and jumps on his back and stabs him a couple of times. Yeah. And then when he gets up, she goes straight out the door. She cries a little bit. Yeah. And then finally you see like, oh, okay, maybe there is a little bit of humanity. Maybe it's just the situation. Maybe it's her training. Who knows? She cries a little bit and she just walks straight out the door. Mm-hmm. And then he goes up to the window and sees her like Jackie Chan a fence, and then does a trampoline flip over the hedge, and that touch, that little part. Oh my god! I don't know if they made her do that or if that's an ADR thing. It sounds ADR.
I went back and watched it like 3 times when I watched it though, because it's so fucking great.
And she's gone, and he's like, okay, well, okay. He goes, okay, and now he has to walk out even more bloodied and everything.
Past those two women who are just oblivious.
And I wondered, after seeing this twice, was that a comment, like a slight comment about how people just don't notice anything?
Well,
they're absorbed in their own world.
Yeah, he's got the blood on his face.
Because I know if I'm walking down a sidewalk, I would notice that.
I love that it's shot from the back, too, because you see just how bad this stab wound is, because it starts off as like a little trickle of blood, and then by the time he gets to the car, it's like his entire back of his shirt.
Yeah. He gets back to Fuches's car and he's like, I'm like in real bad shape. We need to go to the hospital. And Fuchs, of course, does not want to do that because of all the trouble that would cause. And so he figures that they can just go to a drugstore and get some supplies, some needle and thread, and he can. He's like, I'm good at stitches. He's got Stephen Root's got that. It gets a couple of almost Milton-ness type of actions in this. He's like, I'm good at stitches, and he park. Now I didn't understand this. He parks right up at the front of the drugstore.
So like, if you don't want to call attention to your bloodied friend in that front seat, that's the worst way to do it.
Yeah, I didn't really understand that. But Fuchs comes out and he's like, all right, I get to, he's like, what am I getting again? And he goes, needle and thread. He goes, I'm about to die.
He's so slow and casual about it. Like, do you want a Red Bull?
Yeah, get some corn nuts.
Yeah, I'm gonna get the hotel needle and thread stuff, and like just like going all these specifics that he doesn't need to be doing. He needs to get in as soon as he can and get out.
Yeah,
he doesn't care.
He really
the
doesn't.
whole conversation on the way there is about, okay, is it done? Is it done? Is it done?
Is it done?
And then it's like, all right, yeah, we'll take care of you. But okay, when he confirms it, he's like, yes, now we're out of the thing of Loach, and then he talks about the new Chechens and all that
This
stuff.
is the first episode where I felt like there was, when we debate whether or not he cares for Barry or not. This is the first time I felt like it swung the other way
for sure.
so far.
For sure.
Because there's no care whatsoever about him getting stabbed and like beaten or anything. He's just wanting to go to the next thing. Right now, Fuchs goes into the store, and then Barry gets called by Loach, who's like wanting to know if it's done. And he's just like, fuck you, man. I'm like really hurt bad, bleeding bad and everything.
Loach
he
does not care.
Yeah, hangs up on him. And then he gets, this is an interesting thing. He sort of drifts out of consciousness, and he has this, I guess it's a dream. It has to be a dream, because what we've been told about his experience in Afghanistan is that he had to be shipped out of there and sent to Germany,
right,
and almost faced charges before he came in. But this one is like everybody's coming to their loved ones out in the desert and everything. And I think that's the other indication this is definitely totally a dream. But the way they talked about it in the afterwards almost sounds like this is how it happened.
Well, it's dream logic, and dream logic can put you in weird situations, but it's often based on reality. And I think the way it happened in real life is completely different. But in this, and certainly for dramatic purposes, you see him walk up and you see the big smile on his face. And I feel that probably happened.
Yeah.
In real life, the big smile probably happened.
Well, you get the feeling because at the end of the episode, he imagines him doing the same thing, where it's the smile and then like the come over here with
the little
me
head
thing.
nod.
Yes, exactly.
Like not even his experience though. Like, let's forget that this is happening in the desert, which that's not how you would get back with your family and everything. But it wouldn't have happened even if he's not in the desert. He wasn't there with any of the other people, I don't think, when they got back to their families or anything. I don't think that happened.
Yeah, I think this is
just
totally
strictly
surreal.
dream.
Yeah.
But the way they talked about it afterwards, it sounded like, yeah, he's remembering. It almost sounds like he's remembering the time that he got out of Afghanistan. And I was like, no, this doesn't seem like a remembrance. But yes, we don't see him right away, right? We just see the smile, and then it cuts.
See the smile, and then later on we go back when it happens.
He'll drift out again, and then we find out that it's Fuchs, and he's all dressed in black.
Looks almost like a devil or something.
Yeah,
totally,
You start thinking of the Dark Tower and stuff like that. The guy dressed in black and everything.
I think it's symbolic, but it definitely something like that happened. That was how I took it. So.
Okay. So yeah, they find some place to stitch up Barry, and Barry, man, if he could just learn how to lie.
No kidding.
I just sit here. He's getting stitched up. Or he's getting, actually first he's just getting the lotion or whatever on him and everything. And he goes, so what did he do? Did he hit you with a hatchet or something? And he's like, it wasn't him. And I'm like, God damn it, man. Just say
seriously,
yes.
Just say yes. Uh-huh.
Yeah, I wonder if because you could tell that he's woozy, way woozy for losing all
Yeah.
that blood. But I wonder if he would have done this normally. It seems like something Barry probably would have done.
I think
Yeah.
it's within his character to just, he can't lie about it. And so he goes, no, it wasn't him. It was his daughter. And then so Fuches immediately goes to the, oh man, I'm so sorry you had to kill a little girl and everything. And you know, and then he does it again. He's like, oh, I didn't kill her.
Yeah.
She ran out of the house, and Fuches is like, now we're going to have to kill her. And so Fuches drives around the neighborhood looking for this little girl who is hiding.
Yeah.
And he's like driving up to trash cans. Is that her? And drives up to another trash. Is that her? And then they drives off, and she's like,
Meanwhile, she runs right behind them.
Yeah.
And runs over, and I guess maybe they see her or something. She goes and sits down, and they like happen to pass her.
Yeah.
And park nearby.
and you're like, that's her. And she's sitting on the curb. And Fuches is like, okay, Barry, we got you stitched up, man. Let's go. And he's like, I'm not killing a little girl, man. I'm not doing it. And he's like, so Fuches tries to improvise this thing, trying to get her in the van and everything.
I want to sound like a creep, but you
Yeah,
want to get in the van.
Me and my friend and everything. He's like, I got corn nuts, and then this is the part of the episode where I instantly fell in love. I mean, I was already in love with this episode, but like this part right here made me officially just like it's a classic now. She gets up and proceeds to run to the tree behind her, climb it, go across a big branch, and then get on the roof and then perch on the roof.
So great.
All in one shot. Fuches just looks at that and he's like, oh, that girl isn't human. That girl isn't human.
I told you.
And so they decide to wait it out, and this is where Barry does get knocked out again. And he remembers that it's, or he dreams that it's Fuches in black and everything. And then he wakes up again, and he really is. I guess they didn't stitch him yet, but Fuches does some makeshift, really horrible job
with different color string.
Oh,
yeah,
God.
We see later.
Dude does a really horrible job with the stitches. Fuches is proud of it and everything. Yeah, man. Now you're all sewn up. Let's go get her. And
She's still on the roof.
She's still on the roof. And you see Barry look out, and he's like, oh wow, that's creepy. And he's like a little gargoyle up there. He's obviously still not going to do it. And they have this whole actually the stitches pop loose.
Yeah, almost immediately he stretches and he pops the stitches. So he's
Yeah.
like, I've got some.
He's got some super glue.
Oh.
By the way, all of this is completely glossed over by the next episode.
Yeah.
All of that. But he uses some super glue. Yeah, man, it's getting together and everything. It's a super glue. And in the meantime, Lily jumps down from the roof and gets on the top of the car. We hear just a sound of something hitting the roof, and they're like, "Oh, what was that?" And then Fuches tries to drive and do the brake thing and try to get her off, but like. When he does that brake thing, the camera comes, it cuts out to there. She's just hanging on.
Yep.
She has no problem with this.
Nope.
And then like while they're sitting there talking, she just like climbs into the back seat through an open window.
Quietly as possible.
Yes. And Fuches and Barry continue to argue, and then even like it's already classic, but now it's just jumped into like another stratosphere. She comes from the back seat and bites Fuches in the cheek, and just holds on.
Yeah.
And there's this look on it, like. There's this look. Her eyes keep darting around, like it's just like I'm not letting go. I'm not letting go. It's almost like the actress herself was kind of like, when do you want me to stop this? But she just latches on for just a crazy amount of time. And Fuches is like, kill her, man, kill her. He's like, I'm not going to kill her. Why don't you just go ahead and knock her off your face or whatever? He's like, I can't. He's like, why can't you? Because I super glued my hands to the steering wheel.
Yeah.
There's this wonderful moment where you can't see it on the podcast, but Bill Hader's like, or Barry suggests, he's like, just shake your head gently and she'll come off.
Yeah.
And he does like this shampoo move or something like that.
Eventually, she just takes a huge bite out of his cheek, and runs out, and then like goes in front of the car and gives this just. It's a screech of some sort with like blood all over her mouth and everything. Some primal thing going on there, and then she moves on.
I got real shades of Logan in this episode.
Yeah.
Because she that scream in particular. Have you seen Logan?
No.
that scream in particular. There's a kid version of Wolverine basically in Logan.
Yeah.
And every time that she goes into full beast mode, she does it.
Yeah.
And that's both. I think there was a moment before in the house where she did it, and there was a moment here where it's just it's awesome.
She runs away, she's gone, and you wonder, and that's a loose end.
Yeah.
Maybe that comes back at some point.
She's never seen again.
No.
So far.
That's
right?
Never seen again, but I
far.
guarantee after this episode we're seeing her again.
I hope so.
And in other series too. She is awesome. I want her in other shows and movies.
But only
and
that
stuff.
character. She can only play that character.
We get to the third act of this episode, which is in some ways the weakest too, just because of the sheer logistics of everything that happened in here. Barry still needs to get some help for all of his injuries and everything. They go to a grocery store, and he goes into the grocery store, and who should be there but Ronnie?
One thing real fast. It isn't part of the reason they go there because now Fuches is messed up.
Yeah.
And he needs to get some things. And I found it really interesting. The first time they go to a store and Barry's hurt, Fuches is real casual about getting out.
Yeah.
This time, Fuches is hurt and he is screaming at Barry, get in there, do this. It is serious because he is actually hurt.
Yeah, that's a good point. It's exactly what happens.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly what happens.
He's also asking for nail polish remover or whatever to get his hands on stuff.
Yeah, exactly. So it just shows a little bit of Fuchs' character there.
Oh,
yeah, absolutely. He's at his absolute worst in this episode. But yeah, that's a good point because when Barry is hurt, he doesn't give a shit, and then he comes in to this one and he's demanding Barry go in and help.
And we go in, and I have to mention, How Can I Live Without You is playing throughout the entire thing.
Yes, it is.
We have not had any music at all so far. All of these great fight scenes have been silent. Even the title card came on without the typical Barry thing right at the start. And then we come into How Can I Live Without You?
And it's the
just
perfect
hilarious.
song.
Yeah, it's great.
Perfect song for this. Barry is looking for supplies, and Ronnie Proxon, for some reason, and the only thing that I can think of is that he's just a weird dude, is also at the store looking for supplies to help him. But I'm like, why aren't you at a hospital, dude? You don't have anything to worry about with cops and stuff like that.
That's true.
Yeah.
I don't know if he felt like, he's such an unusual character that he's like, well, maybe I can get this neck brace and that will help my busted windpipe.
Maybe so. And maybe he's just one of those that's averse to going to hospitals. There's always that macho type of deal going on. It's one of those things where like, okay, the coincidence that they're there at the same time is one thing, but then I'm like, why is he even here? I mean, he's messed up, man. He needs to get real doctors on him and everything. And Barry, once again, what is he doing? He's like, hey, Ronnie.
It's
me,
still
man.
wants the plan to work.
It's me.
I'm the guy from before.
In your house.
Yeah. And I guess he's worried that I guess he's worried that now that he's found out that he's alive and everything, he's still trying to find a way to get him to go along with the plan and everything. But he knows that there's no way that he's going to be able to talk his way out of this. But he's like, hey man, it's me. And then of course Ronnie goes now on a rampage.
Yeah.
He's ready to. I love this part. He's about to attack Barry, and Barry's still trying to do the Chicago thing, and then Ronnie hits like a whole row of like diapers or something.
Mm-hmm.
And Barry goes, he's like, come on, Ronnie, don't be an asshole, man. And Ronnie's just like in full attack mode. An employee tries to get in between them, which is silly. And he's like, hey, guys. And then Ronnie beats that dude up, like just a couple of kicks and he's gone. And then Ronnie just goes on this like thing where he's just kicking everything in sight. And there's even a point where he misjudges Barry where he is or something,
totally.
and jumps into like a completely other aisle before and Barry's just standing there. He's like, you're causing a scene, man. Everybody's leaving.
Yeah, everybody clears out.
Yeah.
You're right. The logistics, I went along with it just because the episode is so unusual.
Yeah.
Overall. But like, it's a good thing that everybody clears out because then they can have this tete-a-tete thing and then, get surprised.
Yeah, everybody. I mean, here's where it really gets kind of like too silly is that Loach Loach is one of the head guys going to I don't know if they know that he knows that Barry and Ronnie are there or what. He's the head guy going in there. He's like going in first, and everybody else, I guess, is just outside. And then he immediately shoots Ronnie, and then Loach tries to pretend that Barry has a weapon so that he's going to say a self-defense motive. And he misses Barry like from like 2 feet.
Yeah.
Barry's like backing up, and then
he kicks him.
Yeah, he gets up and you're not expecting him to be up, and he does this like I guess roundhouse kick right into the neck and takes him down with one
he
kick.
dies with the kick.
With the kick.
Okay, like that's one that I did not pick up for some reason.
It's the greatest because you see him. We've seen the Cable Guy many times, but there's this thing in the dream that Steven has where Jim Carrey just appears on the screen, like at the door, and Ronnie does the same thing. He just like comes up, and it's the craziest, silliest thing that made me scream laugh.
Yeah,
he roundhouse kicks him, and Loach just goes.
Yeah.
That's it. Like he's fucking dead.
But so Loach tries to kill Barry in the self-defense thing. And then before he is able to do it, Ronnie jumps up out into the background and gives him a huge kick to the neck.
He's a monster. He's an unkillable. You know who he is? He's that guy from Snowpiercer.
Yeah.
That keeps dying but makes it all the way to the front of the chain.
Yeah.
I'm making a lot of movie comparisons.
Yeah. But further making this last act a little sloppy in my mind is that Barry is he's exposed in that store.
Yeah.
He might be behind an aisle or something, but he's in front of windows. There's cops. There's a million cops outside.
Mm-hmm.
And so 4 cops come in and blow away Ronnie Proxon.
Finally kills this guy. I guess they kill him.
And Barry just walks away.
And Barry walks away, and nobody says, "Hey, there's a guy running."
Yeah.
This is
with blood all over him.
Right. Like I said, this episode is already classic, and I can't hate it at any point. And I love even this stuff. But man, do they stretch the credibility in this last scene a whole bunch.
Yeah.
He walks out to the back of the store, and then there's the whole classic thing where cops are at every corner, it seems like, except this one where Fuches is, and he's waiting for him, and he's like,
Fuches, who was already run into a cop car.
Yeah.
And then
the cop car
and drove away, but like just to the other side of the parking lot.
And the cop turns on his lights, and I guess he's like, well, I guess that guy was just trying to get out of the parking lot. Better just let him go. and it's there's a lot of stuff here at this last one where you're like,
yeah, you could put on your Cinemasins hat and come up with quite a few things. Unfortunately, it's all right.
The series certainly paints the police as incompetent overall.
Sure.
This is the most glaring example.
Definitely. Like you said at when he gets to the car, Barry imagines Fuches doing that little head tilt move, like get in the car. But it's really Fuches is like, hey Barry, man, we need to get back get in the van, we get out of here, blah blah blah. and there's a moment of indecision.
Yeah.
And we don't. I mean, we assume he gets in the car because it's by the next episode they'll be together. So that's how that episode ends, and it directed by Bill Hader, written by Bill Hader, starring Bill Hader,
and not starring any other of the acting troupe, none of Cousineau, no other side story.
No Hank.
It is just no Hank. It's just Fuches and Barry, Ronnie and Lily, and Loach a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's fucking brilliant. I've never seen anything like this on TV. Every time you figure it out, like, well, this wouldn't happen. Like, they would do the exact thing that you didn't want. That's why that stuff at the end, I totally understand the logistics and stuff like that. But it was so surreal and it was so goofy that I'm so glad that they went full on Looney Tunes.
It
basically
goes completely along with what we've seen so far. That all that gets staged in the store and everything. It's just after like multiple viewings, you're like, whoa, wait a minute,
totally.
what's going on
Yeah.
here? So
It's so different than all the other episodes. It's really surprising, and it stand out in that it's awesome. But there is a small part of me that's like, man, it just doesn't fit the rest of the series. And I just the small little part is really glad they did this, but it's so different.
No, I understand
than all the other pieces.
It does help advance the relationship or the lack thereof with Fuches and Barry.
Yeah.
And so it does tie into the narrative there. But yeah, it's like on the bad side of this example is that Stranger Things where 11 goes off and goes goth for like an episode.
Yes.
And it's awful. Here they did the same thing, and I guess series do this all the time.
It does happen.
It has become a thing for series to do this, especially short series like this, to have their own dedicated standalone episode in the middle of it, like that sort of like breaks up the narrative. And I don't remember which series was the first to do it, but it happened. It started like 3 or 4 years ago. It feels like 4 or 5, maybe.
This obviously wasn't a short series, but like the Fly episode of Breaking Bad.
Bring that up.
Breaking Bad is
Yeah.
a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah, which would be actually longer ago as when all that. So it's where they've, I think, I don't know if it's the writers feel like there's only X amount of episodes that this story has, but they have this order that they have to fulfill. And it's weird how that works out. Those standalone episodes are almost always great, except for that Stranger Thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I think they were just shooting for that and didn't make it.
Yeah, but I've even seen it with Unbreakable. Kimmy Schmidt did it, where it's even comedy does it, and it's really fun. I hope they do this again at some point. I mean, I don't want them to do it just to do it. Like, oh, that was fun, let's just do this. I want them to have an actual thing that like this.
It definitely advanced the plot. We get past the Loach thing, and we see a lot more, even more nuance of the relationship between Fuches and Barry. So, yeah, overall, just a fantastic episode.
Okay, well, that is the episode Ronnie Lily. It is still my favorite probably of the entire series.
Me too.
It's so insane and good and funny and just all the different things that you like. But that'll do it for this episode. Where can people reach out and talk about this?
Get on Twitter, and then you follow your @NowStarting, and that's going to be Mike's handle. You can come to @MusicVideoSins and tweet me. Shout out, by the way, the beautiful music that you hear at the beginning and the end of these episodes are from our friend, wonderful producer named Larange, and he made this special for us, and I love it so much. I listen to it when I'm editing, like on repeat. It's so great. So shout out to him. You can follow him @Larange. Also go to SoundCloud and comment. Let's have a little convo. Little kids say convo.
And everybody needs to go out and hear the Marlowe album from last year.
Yeah, baby.
Cannot talk enough about that Larange and Solomon Bingham. That's their album. I'm saying everything wrong today, but I know I said Marlowe right. Go and hear the Marlowe album. It's awesome.
All right, that'll do it for this week. It's Chris Atkins and Barrett Shear and Mike Hester. We'll see you next time.